Now, as you already know, that most of the stocks, or the reason why most of the Chinese stocks right now are trading this low, is of course of the delisting fears that are surrounding the Chinese stocks. I mean, if you remember early this year, the Chinese regulators came out, or they've been trying to calm investors down, indicating that they will find a solid ground with the US. I mean, you remember that recently, on an article from Bloomberg, we read that the Chinese regulators were preparing to give access to audit papers, or full access to audit papers of those 200 or approximately 200,000 Chinese stocks which are trading in the New York Stock Exchange. Now, those were the headlines going around, of course, these delisting fears around the Chinese stocks. And of course, we know that some of the stock, or one of the stock which was trading in the US, of course, delisted from that New York Stock Exchange. I think it was it early this year or late last year, I can't remember correctly, but it happened, and we saw that stock, of course, delisting from the New York Stock Exchange, which that of course bring or worsen the situation and made investors to be scared or take their money out of the Chinese stock. Now, one of the things that of course I've been telling you on this channel is that so many institutions are still remaining bullish on the on most of the Chinese stocks. In fact, yesterday on my yesterday video, I did indicate that one of the big guys in the emerging markets, or who is a fund manager that focuses on emerging markets, indicated that he believes that the Chinese stocks are almost hitting the bottom, and now it's an opportunity for you guys, or for investors, to consider those stocks, because those are the stocks that will do very well. Now, this just has to show you that though these delisting fears are around, and the COVID probably outbreaks, which are of course disrupting the supply chain, or bringing the supply chain constraints, are there, in big institutions or big financial institutions remain bullish onto these top quality stocks or Chinese stocks like NIO, which is something that of course it has to motivate you to also stay long and ignore the short-term headwinds that might come because of the delisting fears and also the COVID surge cases in China. So these of course are the short-term headwinds. And one of the good things, or the articles, as I said in the beginning of this video, where we read that the Chinese regulators are believing that positive news might come out on June or before June, which is something that of course it is definitely going to revive most of the Chinese stocks if the news are indeed positive. Now, before we dig deep, you'll remember that of course this video is just an entertainment video, and you should not take it as a professional financial advice video. Now, I'll really appreciate if you can just hit that likes button, and probably subscribe that if you've not subscribed to the channel already. And once you subscribe, hit that notification bell so that at least you can be notified by YouTube every time we drop a new content. Otherwise, today guys, one thing that made me to load the boat onto my favorite stock, which is NIO, is that the Chinese regulators came out and said the uncertainties on these Chinese stocks will be removed very soon, which is something that is incredible, because of course one of the things that we read from that article is that the Chinese regulators are in contact, or have a video call almost every week with the US regulators, trying to find the solid ground. And right now the Chinese regulators are drafting a framework which will allow the Chinese stocks to continue listing on the New York Stock Exchange. Which, when I read this, the first thing that came to mind is that I need to load the boat onto the NIO stock. I need to add more holdings, of which I did, and this is amazing, and it's incredible to know that such a good stock like NIO is trading at a massive discount. I mean, this stock is trading today around $17.37, which is, I believe, it's an opportunity for investors to go in and probably load the boat onto this NIO stock. Now, one of the things that of course made me to be excited when I read that article is that the vice chairman of the regulation in China just said that they will definitely find an agreement in the future, which is something that must show you, or just has to show an investor like you and me, to probably stay long onto these Chinese stocks, because an agreement is coming. They are quite positive that they will find a solid ground with the US regulators, which this will definitely mean that the share prices of all the Chinese stocks, if we are to find that day when both probably the Chinese regulators and the US regulators get to a solid ground, the Chinese stocks, all of them will definitely recover. Those, of course, that are listed in the New York Stock Exchange, which this will definitely mean that those that are buying right now a stock like NEO trading this low are going to definitely be rewarded. And of course, with COVID cases easing probably in China, it's something that again it's going to seriously minimize the supply chain constraints that is around the EV industry, which is something that must just show you that now it's a good opportunity for you to probably consider loading the boat on a stock like NEO, which we have talked a lot about on this channel. I mean, the US Public Company Oversight Board is to conduct a review which will apparently remove the uncertainties on these Chinese stocks, which again, by us or by when I read this, I just knew that it is time to load the boat yet again onto these Chinese stocks like NEO, which is why I loaded the boat on NEO myself, because I know that one way or the other, we are definitely going to see the Chinese probably regulators and the US finding a solid ground. I mean, the fact that they are engaging each other on a video call every week, it's something that must just show you that probably there is progress in what they are doing, which is why every week they are engaging, trying to find a solution. This to me is good news. This to me is one of the things that resulted in me loading the boat onto the NEO stock, which is why I probably think that you should probably also look into doing that, because I personally believe that when the uncertainties on these Chinese stocks get lifted off, these stocks will definitely recover, no doubt about that. I personally believe that we might see a 30% or a beautiful probably 30% jump, as you will know how bad or how heavy these delisting fears were on these Chinese stocks, which is why I believe that when we find or get to see probably a positive statement from both parties, that is the US and the Chinese regulators, I believe that Chinese stocks can recover probably by 30%, and of course it's those that are only listed in the New York Stock Exchange. So these are some of the latest news that we read today, and I believe that they ought to motivate you to stay long onto these Chinese stocks like NEO. Otherwise, with all that, guys, please do make sure that you do your own due diligence so that at least you can be comfortable when you're investing into these Chinese stocks. Otherwise, that's all from me, and I wish you nothing but the best in your stock market investing journey. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Otherwise, that's all from me, and I will see you in my next video, and God bless you all.